some previous research has really indicated that early childhood care and education workers are providing a virtual public service based on their compensation and what they do for the local economy. And so part of the work of K-State 105 and our partners there really ties in well, taking a multi-level view of the early childhood care and education system, from the individual to the families to the communities, and in particular around the economic development component of communities, the relationships for families, and of course for the individual child and the individual early childhood care and education professional.
Child Care Aware of Kansas reports that a lack of educators is one of the primary barriers to filling childhood care openings in the state. As part of a grant-funded project, Kansas State University is working to rebuild the state's early childhood care and education workforce. On today's Sound Living, building a career pathway for childhood care and education. Sound Living is a weekly public affairs program produced by Research and Extension at Kansas State University. I'm Jeff Wickman. Bronwyn Fees, the Associate Dean for Academic and Faculty Affairs in K-State's Department of Applied Human Sciences, is the principal investigator for Kansas Child Care Training Opportunities, which received more than $5 million in initial funding for a collaborative project involving K-State. That project will implement a career pathway for those currently in the early childhood care and education field or those thinking about it. K-State Research and Extension Child Development Specialist Bradford Wiles is also involved in the project, which seeks to capitalize on the statewide extension service by providing training to local agents. Bronwyn, first off, maybe just some background on how the career pathway came about.
The Children's Cabinet conducted conversations and surveys across the state with early childhood care and education professionals and system partners that support early childhood care and education in the state, and they developed the pathway based on the responses to those inquiries, to those surveys. So we have what's called the Early Childhood Care and Education Pathway that's actually posted on the Kansas Children's Cabinet and Trust Fund website so that the reader or the listener can see that. And it's a one-page document that identifies several pathways for professionals to advance in their career. There are 7 levels. There are incremental levels that increase as individuals achieve more training and education. They move up on the pathway. And then there are 2 distinct subpaths within the document that allow professionals to either advance through credit-bearing experiences in an institution of higher ed or to accumulate non-credit-bearing professional development hours, either way, that they can move on the pathway. And the intention, of course, of this pathway is to make it clear to anyone who's interested in early care and education how they can go through the process of training and preparation, not only initially, but all the way through their career. And the overall intent is to make it clear also to those who utilize, of course, early care and education for their children and employers, the qualifications that individuals have, the training that they have, and that hopefully compensation will be equitable for that advancement in their career.
Bradford, we understand that there is a huge need right now for early childhood education, and it sounds like this is something that is going to move us more in that direction?
Yes, absolutely. So the strategy is to attack this issue from multiple different angles. The career pathway is really focused on the workforce angle. Recruitment and retention can be a very difficult component, particularly in rural communities. And so what we're really working towards is both a supply side and a demand side capacity building. So this is an important piece of an overall picture that helps us really bolster the entirety of the early care and education system within Kansas.
So this would be for someone who is already in the field and someone looking to get into the field?
Yeah, that's correct. So we really want to honor and respect those people who have been in the field, recognize that they are tremendous assets, help them see where they are, help them recognize how important the work that they do is, and provide them with opportunities for advancement, for recognition, etc., so that it's a level playing field, as well as for those who are considering a career, they can see the advancement potential. Whereas currently it can be a little difficult to get into the field because the opportunities to really look across different contexts don't really align. And so this will really give us a chance to recruit and retain high-quality professionals with a demonstration of their ability to move up in their careers.
And this is something that can work in the rural areas as well as the urban areas?
Absolutely. Wherever the individual is located, they will have access to professional development and higher education. And a lot of that will be available to our individuals both face-to-face, like coming to a campus if they wish, or face-to-face training in their community, as well as online opportunities.
So this would be something that could be housed at Kansas State University. They could do their work here?
Absolutely. One of the outcomes of the implementation of the pathway is that the institutions of higher education will collaborate with one another to ensure a seamless pathway between our institutions so that individuals who may start at a community college will be able to move to a four-year institution and take their credits with them.
As part of this effort, Extension is working directly with Kansas Child Care Training Opportunities, CACITO, to advance the capacity of Extension agents to provide some of those professional development trainings in local communities for those who either prefer direct education in person, face-to-face, knowing that they're also able to use Kansas Child Care Training Opportunities for online resources as well as for the multiple different supports that they provide for those wanting to enter the workforce or, again, to advance their careers through further professional development and education.
I know this is just in the early stages, so what are the next steps in the process? Where do we go from here?
We started this process this spring, outlining an implementation plan, working with professionals from across the state and actually some consultants out of the state to guide our process. So we're fairly early in our implementation. One of our first steps was to discuss with the workforce and the many partners that support the workforce what they thought the barriers and the opportunities were to implement this plan. So we had multiple conversations. Actually, I think we had 17 conversations, over 200 individuals across the state that shared what they thought the barriers and opportunities were. We've taken that information and to heart and included that in the implementation plan so that we're sure we are meeting the needs as they are identified by the workforce and, again, the many systems that support our workforce. One of the components that will also support our work that will be released here fairly shortly is a comprehensive workforce study, particularly a survey that will go statewide to all of our early childhood care and education professionals who are currently practicing or who have practiced at some point in their career. They may not be necessarily practicing at the moment. In order to get additional feedback and insight into their practice, often their business, because they are small business owners themselves, and the things that they have found or the barriers that they have faced, as well as the successes that they have achieved in their career. So we're trying to get a more comprehensive view of the length that they have been in their career, where have they served families and children, what are the barriers that they have faced, what are the things that they think that they need in order to be successful, and that will inform, again, our work, of course, across the entire state. So that doesn't matter where you are in the state, we want to hear from you.
As part of rolling the survey out, one of the things that we really are interested in as well are those people who have left the early childhood care and education workforce. And we're working on developing that element. And again, that's where Extension can really play a part. When you live and work in the communities, you know people who have been in early childhood care and education who are no longer. And we want to understand why they left so that as we build out our system, we can anticipate the needs and really protect the workforce from those factors that might make them leave?
I think it's really important for people to understand that the early care and education professional is probably the most important factor in early care and education environment. A very young child is reliant on the relationships that they are building with the adults in that space. And when we evaluate or look at the quality of the early childhood environment, the teacher that's in that space is one of the most important elements. And we want to provide the greatest support we can for that individual, because it is not an easy job when you are working with multiple children throughout the day who each bring their own unique and individual needs to that environment. And that professional then is engaged in trying to meet not only the needs of that entire group of children, but also the needs of the individual child. It's joyful work. It brings people great honor to be able to do that for families, but it is also very demanding work.
One of the important parts of having the early childhood care and education workforce and its importance for the provider is also part of the larger world of economic development, right? Without our early childhood care and education workforce, people can't go to work. And so we really want to recognize not only the social, emotional, and cognitive benefits to young children, but recognize the more community level benefits as well. Some previous research has really indicated that early childhood care and education workers are providing a virtual public service based on their compensation and what they do for the local economy. And so part of the work of K-State 105 and our partners there really ties in well, taking a multi-level view of the early childhood care and education system, from the individual to the families to the communities, and in particular around the economic development component of communities, the relationships for families, and of course for the individual child and the individual early childhood care and education professional. Recall, of course, that these children have all different needs. They evoke different responses from the providers. And so it's really important that we understand that it's not just an individual child, it's not just the group of children in a setting, but it's the families and the larger community that all are part of this work.
You're going to have a lot of data to sort through, so what's the timeline then moving forward? When might we actually see the pathway put into practice?
Actually, the pathway is already out there. We are building the pieces a little bit like Legos. We are building the pieces that stack on one another to support not only the workforce, but the systems that support the workforce. Many of our high schools do offer, and through their family consumer science education programs, the early childhood pathway. A few offer the CDA, or the Child Development Associate's credential. So the pathway doesn't just begin like at a community college. The pathway can begin in high school. And we are eager to work with our family and consumer science teachers, our CTE teachers in the high school to help encourage and support students who might show interest in early childhood care and education field. And a fundamental reason I think that the K-State Research and Extension piece plays in all of this, particularly at Kansas State University, is that as a land grant, we are committed to engagement with community. We understand what we need to do based on the interactions that we have within community all across Kansas. Doesn't matter whether you're rural or urban. For every citizen and resident of the state of Kansas, we are to be listening and responsive to their needs. And this is one of the many ways that the K-State Research and Extension system is also engaged in meeting the needs, as we've heard from our workforce. We could not do this as well without K-State Research and Extension.
That's Bronwyn Fees, Associate Dean for Academic and Faculty Affairs in K-State's Department of Applied Human Sciences, and the Principal Investigator for Kansas Child Care Training Opportunities, and K-State Research and Extension Child Development Specialist Bradford Wiles, with information on efforts to rebuild the state's early childhood care and education workforce. Sound Living is a weekly public affairs program produced by Research and Extension at Kansas State University. I'm Jeff Wickman, and this is the K-State Radio Network.